Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an Enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. Start converting your B2B audience today. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started today at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Whether you bond over streaming binge-worthy videos, watching sports recaps, video gaming, or by unplugging altogether, the 2026 Lincoln Nautilus Hybrid helps keep you connected throughout your journey. Learn more at Lincoln.com. Available connectivity features and functionality vary by model. Package pricing, trials, and term lengths vary by model. Video streaming and games are only available while parked.
Hello and welcome to I Talk to Ghosts. I'm your resident medium, Jennifer, and I welcome you into my spirit parlor this evening. As I light the candles, find a cozy spot on the sofa, take a breath, and settle in. Tonight, I want to talk about something that gets discussed a lot in spiritual spaces, something we hear about constantly, probably, but rarely pause to really examine it. Karma. It's one of those words that gets thrown around casually. People say things like, karma will get them, or that's just bad karma, or don't worry, karma always balances things out. And usually, karma is framed as a punishment or a reward or some kind of cosmic justice system keeping score behind the scenes. But tonight, let's talk about it a little bit differently. I want to step away from that familiar framing and have a discussion with you. Let's look at karma from a different angle. Not to tell you what to believe, but to see if this perspective might help reframe your own experiences. I think a lot of times we can easily be frustrated that if karma were true, why don't we see it working? And maybe this discussion can bring a little clarity to something that never quite made sense. What if karma isn't punishment at all? What if it's not moral judgment? What if karma was alive? Most of us were taught to think of karma like a scale. Do something good happens later. Do something bad comes back around. But if that were really how karma worked, the world would look really different than it does. We've all seen people who do cruel things and seem to thrive. We all know kind, thoughtful people who suffer deeply. And when that happens, the idea of karma as justice starts to feel hollow or even cruel in itself. And when that happens, people can either cling harder to the idea, insisting it will happen eventually, or they reject karma altogether. But what if karma was never meant to be justice? What if karma doesn't punish, it doesn't reward, but what if it simply reflects? Reflection doesn't care about fairness. It cares about balance and alignment. So let's take some time to imagine karma is not like a rule book, but as a field, a responsive, intelligent field that reacts to consciousness itself. Not just what you do, but why you do it. Not just your actions, but your awareness while choosing them. Two people can make the same decision and experience completely different karmic outcomes. And why? Because karma doesn't respond to behavior alone. It responds to intention, integrity, and self-honesty. And when you know something isn't aligned and you choose it anyway, the feedback can be sharper. Not because you're being punished, but because you're capable of hearing it. The universe doesn't correct you with anger. It adjusts the environment until the truth becomes uncomfortable enough to notice. And maybe karma isn't watching you, it's more like listening. And still, through all of this, it might seem really frustrating. Let's talk about cruelty, like being dismissive or mocking someone or withholding empathy, or feeling like others are below you due to some materialistic scale, or ignoring the impact of words because you didn't mean it that way. These things don't summon punishment. We witness that all the time. But they do create weight. Cruelty compresses the energy field. It dulls intuition. It disrupts synchronicity, and it makes life feel strangely stalled and disconnected. That's why people who act without care often lose their sense of magic. I'm sure you've seen that. They stop noticing signs, they feel blocked creatively, they feel cut off spiritually, not because karma is angry, but because heaviness makes it harder to receive guidance. And this isn't about shame. Karma doesn't shame you. It simply responds to the density you're carrying. One of the hardest spiritual questions to sit with is, if karma is real, why don't cruel people face consequences right away? We're often taught to imagine karma as instant punishment. Do something bad will immediately happen in return. But karma doesn't really work like a cosmic traffic cop writing tickets on the spot. It's slower, it's deeper, and far more intimate than that. Karma is not about revenge. It's about cause and effect on the level of consciousness. When someone acts with cruelty, manipulation, or harm, the first place that action lands isn't in the outside world. It lands inside of them. It shapes their nervous system, their emotional patterns, their relationships, and their ability to feel peace or connection. Seriously, if you know someone who is really cruel and you feel like karma isn't punishing them on an outside materialistic level, think about how much connection they feel in their life. Think about how loved they feel. Think about how much they probably do or don't love themselves. That is karma responding to the energy within them and giving it back to them. Even when it looks like they're thriving, something is being distorted beneath the surface. You can have the best paying job in the world, great car in the driveway, and that all looks great on the outside to those looking in. But on the inside, that person can really be disconnected, feeling unfulfilled, feeling like they're lost in the world, or not having the answers because they have accumulated all these things and it's still not enough. These are the type of things that a cruel person won't necessarily express and share with the world, but they're certainly feeling it on the inside. Cruel people often don't get what's coming to them right away because they may be insulated by privilege or circumstance. They may lack the awareness to feel the weight of their actions yet, and the consequences are unfolding internally, not visibly for you to witness. And karma isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it looks like chronic dissatisfaction. No success can fix it. Shallow relationships that never feel real or safe, or repeating the same conflicts with different people, or a constant sense of agitation, emptiness, or feeling threatened. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Awareness accelerates karma. People who are sensitive, empathetic, or spiritually attuned often feel consequences faster. Doesn't seem quite right, does it? But think about it this way. That's why it can feel so unfair. Kind people suffer deeply while harmful people seem untouched. Because sensitivity isn't a punishment, it's a signal that your system is responsive, alive, and capable of growth. Cruelty delays consequences because it numbs, and kindness sharpens awareness. Eventually, though, unresolved harm has to surface. Karma waits for the moment someone can no longer avoid themselves. When distractions fail, when control slips, when the inner imbalance becomes impossible to ignore. For some people, that moment comes late in life. For others, it comes quietly, without spectacle or witnesses. And not all karma is meant to be seen by us. And that can be one of the most freeing realizations to this. It's not your job to witness someone else's reckoning. Your work is not to track who deserves what. Your work is to remain aligned with your own integrity, because cruelty doesn't just hurt others. It traps the one who practices it into a smaller, colder, inner world. Karma is a mirror that never stops reflecting. And while it may take time, no one escapes the relationship they have with themselves. And don't confuse karma with chaos and free will. One of the biggest misunderstandings in spiritual spaces is the idea that everything that happens is karma. It isn't. Karma is about intentional action and its energetic consequences. But the world we live in is also shaped by chaos, randomness, biology, systems, and other people's free will. Not every painful experience is the result of something someone did to deserve it. Bad things happen outside the karmic cycle all the time. Illnesses, accidents, natural disasters, sudden losses. These aren't moral punishments. They aren't spiritual tests handed down because someone failed a lesson. Sometimes they're simply the result of living in a physical world where bodies break, environments shift, and chance exists. Free will complicates everything. Other people are making choices constantly, and sometimes their choices collide with us in ways that cause harm. That doesn't mean the harm was karmically assigned. It means someone else exercised free will without care. Calling that karma can unintentionally place blame on the person who was hurt. And that's something we need to be very careful about. When we tell good people that their suffering is karma, we risk turning spirituality into a system that excuses cruelty and dismisses grief. Some experiences don't come to teach a lesson, they come to be survived. Meaning often comes later, and sometimes it's meaning we create ourselves, not even something embedded in the event that happened. So why do bad things happen to good people? Because goodness does not grant immunity. Because kindness doesn't shield you from randomness. Because life is not a perfectly balanced scale that adjusts in real time. What does matter is what happens after the chaos. Karma isn't about what happens to you. It's about what happens through you in response. Two people can experience the same tragedy and walk away with entirely different inner landscapes. One becomes hardened and closed by what happened, and the other can become more compassionate, more awake. The event itself wasn't karmic, but the way we metabolize it becomes part of our path. And you may not be able to see it, but you can imagine those two results and what the life path is going to be going forward for both these people who experience the same thing, but split in their reaction and their processing of what happened and how that's going to affect the rest of their life going forward. And sometimes there is no higher reason, no lesson, no cosmic justification. Sometimes the most spiritual response is to simply say, This hurt. It shouldn't have happened, and I'm allowed to grieve it. Spiritual maturity isn't explaining away pain. It's learning how to hold it without turning it into shame, blame, or false meaning. Not all suffering is karma. Some suffering is just chaos. Some of it is the cost of free will. And some of it is just life being unbearably human. And this is where many spiritually sensitive people get confused and honestly exhausted. You might look around and wonder why you seem to feel consequences faster, why your misalignment shows up immediately, why you don't seem to get away with things that others can. That doesn't mean you're doing worse. It often means you're more conscious. Awareness reduces karmic delay. Old souls, sensitives, intuitives, people who are already tuned in, have less of a buffer, less space between choice and consequence. And yes, that can feel really unfair, but it's also a sign of trust. If your karma feels heavy, it may be because you're capable of holding more awareness and transforming patterns instead of repeating them unconsciously. The weight isn't punishment, it's feedback. And sometimes karma goes quiet. Here's something people don't talk about. Sometimes after a karmic loop finally breaks, everything goes silent. No chaos, no corrections, no dramatic shifts, just stillness. And that silence can feel unsettling, like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. But often the silence, it's confirmation. The lesson integrated, the pattern resolved, the conversation is complete, and now there's space. Why don't we try, if you have time, a gentle exercise? And if you don't have time right now, bookmark this episode, remember to come back to it. If you're somewhere comfortable, I want to invite you into a moment of reflection. Think of a pattern in your life that keeps repeating. Not with judgment, just curiosity. And ask yourself softly, what is this trying to teach me to notice? Not fix, not change, just notice. Because karma doesn't demand suffering, it asks for awareness. And awareness alone can dissolve years of repetition. If karma is more of a living intelligence, then every choice is a conversation, not about judgment, but with truth. And maybe tonight, seeing karma this way, as responsive, intelligent, and deeply personal, helps you soften towards your own experiences, not as punishment, not as failure, but as guidance. I hope you enjoyed the conversation tonight. Let me know what you think about karma, and I know it can be a really emotional subject, and I can appreciate that. I really do. Thank you for spending this time with me in the Spirit Parlor. Until next time, take care.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return,
But I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.